For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod driveline components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back on the air another week. We are burning nitro, baby. It's going to be awesome, super exciting. There's a lot of testing going on, hopefully, weather permitting. I know here on the east coast of the state of Florida, we're a little windy and wet, but that doesn't necessarily mean what's going on over there on the west coast of the state is hindered in any way. Of course, we're getting reports at all times. We are going to continue with our normal programming here on WFO Radio this week. We got the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joining us just moments from now. And then Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time, our Lucas Oil Top Alcohol Dragster World Champion, Julie Natas, going to sit in with me. We're going to have a good time and talk about the season that was. She won her championship and upcoming 2024. The title defense. Will Julie win a second Top Alcohol Dragster World Championship? And what about that budding Top Fuel career? We're going to get into it with Julie Natas. Before we get to Reinhart, and of course your comments and questions and thoughts about the sport of drag racing, what I really want to do this year, first of all, it's been a huge week in motorsports. The Ignition audio-only podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud. We get together every week with our WFO Patreon co-hosts, and we have a show. Are they always great? You know, they're always pretty great, but some are better than others. And last night, this week's show, we had a great time. So much to talk about. The Andretti Formula One snub, Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, Denny Hamlin calling out the fans at the Busch Light Clash. Of course, getting ready for the NHRA season, and me, myself, and I getting ready to get behind the wheel of a race car in Orlando. It's a truck, actually. All of these things that are happening, going down in all of our Patreon co-hosts. So if you've never heard the Ignition Show, you definitely want to check out that one, because I think it'll hook you, and you'll subscribe, click the bell, never miss a show on all of our podcast stuff. Look at all these listeners out there. Everybody is sharing the show. They're all saying WFO. They're all super fired up and ready to go, as I know Alan Reinhart is. Before we bring on AR, let me tell you about the people who make it possible for this show to exist. Just like everybody, right? There's a big corporate entity. Now, I don't know. We're the mom and pop store fighting against those big corporate entities. And these are the people who help us do it. Total Seal Piston Rings and FTI Performance. You heard about them at the start of the show. The folks at Foggett, Gary Stannett's self-invented engine protection spray, right? It works on so many other things. It's widely used in the machine shops, but it'll work on a lawnmower, on a weed whacker, on any of these things that you want to, number one, protect the inside of the cylinders from corrosion. Think about sulfuric acid and water condensation mixing once you've put it away, right? Because it's still hot and the air around it is cold. So there's going to be some condensation. And the remnants from combustion, sulfur and sulfuric acid, will then destroy the inside of your cylinders, causing you to lose compression. How do you stop it? With a little spray of Foggett. But then when you go to restart it, it also helps fire it up right away and keep everything absolutely perfect for the next time. So it's an amazing product. Check it out, Foggit. It's available at Summit. It's available at Foggit.com, and it's available on Amazon.com if you want to just go straight to the big dog. CWT Industries, this is one we're talking about a lot. Engine balancing. Engine balancing. I know you guys out there, you got machine shops. You're listening in the machine shop. What kind of balancer do you have? How old is it? How long has it been around? The old tried and true balancer. But how long does it take? And how accurate is it? And how much effort goes into it? And that's the whole point that CWT Industries have addressed. They have got a touch screen rapid balancer that takes a lot of the guessing and guesswork out of it. You can make a lot of time and money with CWT balancers. And if you want to email me, I will put you together with Randy Neal, Joe at WFOradio.com. Great that they are on board. And of course, the folks at Phillips-Connect Smart Trailer Technology. Mr. Epler has done a great job over the years bringing the smart trailer technology to the world of motorsports and the transportation industry. Is there a light out? Is your load gone? Did somebody take it? Did it pull over? What's going on with your trucks and trailers that are out there over the road? Phillips-Connect keeps you connected via the internet and their technology. Email me, Joe at WFOradio.com, and we'll let you in on the whole deal. And then, of course, there's Bernie's Speed Shop, which this is Josh Hart's home mothership, basically. They are doing so many great things at Bernie's, frame-off restorations, buying and selling classic muscle and exotic automobiles, but they're really getting ready for the big NHRA Gator Nationals Fan Fest. Wednesday, right before the Gators, 6 to 9 p.m. I'm going to be there. We're going to do some WFO on location there. Plan on being there. Fly into Orlando Wednesday, go straight to Bernie's, and then spend the rest of the weekend at the Gator Nationals. It's going to be great. Bernie's.com to find out more and never miss a minute. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. I'll tell you about Sam Tech, and I'll tell you about my man, Marvin Rodak, and Rodak'sCoffeeandGrills.com. But right now, we're going to go out to Tucson, Arizona, where he is not very far from going back to an NHRA national event in his home area, thanks to the wall walk that made it all turn around. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart. I'm giving you credit, Alan. You saved the race at, what do we call it? It's now Firebird International Raceway again, right?
No, it's Firebird Motorsports Park. But yeah, it's, and I had zero to do with it.
No,
give Casey the credit. Give Chuck Sundstrom the credit, give their team up there. I really had nothing to do with it. But
the wall walk, though, you were out there, you were on the wall, you were risking your life. Felt like there was maybe even a little emotion. You showed an emotion.
Okay, well, if that played a role, then great. I'm glad I could help in some little way. I can pretend to cry and save every racetrack that it'll help. So just let me know.
So
if you could have told me to go to Houston and cry, then I could have gone to Houston and cried.
Okay, so you should have done that. Made a big mistake. It's not too late, but I guess it is too late. But here's the deal: in the talk radio world, there's the listeners who will never participate in the show, but they listen, and then there's the people who call, and that's like less than 2% of talk radio listeners will ever call at any point, less than 2%. And I feel that's the same way for our commenters. But there's always people out there like pulling little clips and, helping the show behind the scenes. We call them virtual producers. How come no one has ever pulled the clip of Alan Reinhart's Arizona wall walk and put it out there on the social so that everybody could see the passion that brought back Firebird Motorsports Park? Just saying. I'm not doing it. Like, why don't you do it, Joe? I got the stuff I got to do. But we're burning Nitro this week, Alan. They're burning Nitro right across the state from me.
If you're going to do that, tag me and I'll go ahead and kick it out on my X account. So, yeah, how about everybody down in Bradenton ready to go?
Ready to go. The big, the pro organization. A lot of people don't even understand, fans of drag racing, right? Just like only 2% of listeners might ever call at any point ever. Gives you an understanding. There are a lot of NHRA fans and a lot of drag racing fans that don't fully understand the mechanisms at work within the organization. As pro is an organization unto itself, professional racers organization, and that is the teams, basically.
Yeah, pro is professional racing owners, and the owners and the teams certainly have issues that they would like to address with NHRA from time to time, whether it's safety, whether it's format, whether it's schedule, whether it's anything. And there's obviously strength in numbers, right? If the 3 guys reach out to NHRA and go, hey, can we do this? Well, that's 3 guys reaching out. But if as a group they come to NHRA and say, we have gotten together and we would like to propose this change, this adjustment, this whatever, then I think it gives you a little bit more negotiating power. And if you're NHRA, it's nice to have a consensus because, believe it or not, there are times when what Kalitta Motorsports thinks is a good idea is not what Torrence Racing thinks is a good idea, or what, some of the single car independent teams would think is a good idea is not what John Force Racing would think is a good idea. So if you're NHRA and you're having to listen to 30 different ideas from 30 different people and organizations before you try to make a decision, you can always obviously never make everybody happy. But if those organizations all get together and then they come to a consensus and they approach NHRA, one, they've got a little bit more bargaining power. And two, if you're NHRA, if the organization comes to you and says, hey, we want to take Mother's Day off, then for NHRA to say, you know what, the organization is behind this, we can adjust the schedule, we can do something, and you don't have to be upset about, okay, well, if we do this because Joe wants it, are we going to piss off Alan? Or if we do what Alan wants, are we going to annoy everybody else in the pits? Because they have come together basically as a unified voice. So that's what the organization is all about. And as far as their Bradenton event goes, I wish them great success. I hope it goes well. But the old classic, right? There's really not anything new under the sun. They used to run what they called the Super Bowl of drag racing in the 90s out at Firebird Raceway the week or 2 weeks before Pomona, where everybody was doing their preseason testing anyway. So they would come out, they would test for 3 or 4 days, and then they would qualify. They would have a race. They would sell tickets. They would bring the fans out. And that was kind of a warm up to start the season. And that's exactly what they're doing down in Bradenton. They have put together a purse for it. They have invited the pro teams to come down there. And, as part of their preseason testing, they're putting together a race and inviting fans to come out and see it. So I wish them all the best.
Yeah, very exciting. And the pro organization is...
My chair is sinking. So sorry about that.
You're sinking, you're sliding down. We're going to talk about that Hemmy sitting behind you. We've been watching the Supercharger stuff. But I can't help, as we go on this little bit of a story time and a journey, I can't help but think, like, how did I end up announcing for the National Hot Rod Association? And I just got like a work anniversary on LinkedIn the other day. It's been, like 12 years complete, something like that. Pretty amazing how time flies. But I was doing WFO radio, obviously, and a friend, Susan Pollock, may she rest in peace. She used to do PR for Ford, and she had gotten a job at Palm Beach International Raceway when they were, trying to do something, and they were having the pro winter warm-up in West Palm Beach. And they needed an announcer, and they're like, hey, we want you to announce the deal. And it's like, oh man, I have actually, the story is a little bit deeper than that. They were going to do a Super Chevy show or something. And so she dragged me off of the bench, so to speak, or out of retirement from track announcing. I hadn't announced anything. If this was in 2010 at the time, I hadn't announced anything since 1994 or 5. It had been ages. And she's like, come on, come out and announce the thing. It's your local track. I was like, all right, Susan, I will. And then I got in with the track. And then when the pro winter warm-up happened, they just had me be the announcer. And several teams heard me. And Bob Fry, who was going to retire, Bob said, hey, man, I'm getting ready to retire. I'm going to hang it up. You want me to submit your name as someone who could maybe do it? You can string words together. The drivers, they know you. It might work out. You might not be awful. And so I said, yeah. And here the rest is history. Well, exactly. I feel deep down inside, I feel like Bob Fry owes everybody an apology. Look, we know that most people hate my announcing, but they tolerate me because who else would do it, right? But that's how I got here, because of a test session like that. So that's kind of an interesting little story.
No, I think it, again, preseason testing has been around as long as there has been a season. People want to go out. They want to shake the cobwebs off. You want to make a couple of runs. You want to get your crew back in sync. If you've got new parts, new pieces, new technology, new stuff you want to test, you want to get all that stuff done. And if you can make an event out of it, then that's terrific. Now for the pro event, as I understand it, the only people that were invited were the members of pro, and not everybody is. Gainesville is having an open test session this weekend for members, for those racers who are not members or who are not invited to go down there. So those teams will also have an opportunity at least to get on the track and do some testing. So by the time we get to Gainesville, hopefully everybody will be tuned up and ready to go.
Yeah, very exciting. And they've got a lot going on. Last year I was part of the World Series of Pro Mod, so I know how a lot of elements are coming in and changing, and bonuses and cash money and everything. So I'm just excited. I wish everybody a great event, a safe event. I have sent the link to this to Michael Heiner, who does our Patreon only here from Heiner Pro Stock Show. And if he is available in the next little bit, he may join us. In the meantime, though, I want to talk about some of the big stories of 2024, because I think we're all feeling this. Maybe it's unprecedented, or it's not precedented lately, or maybe just every year we are super excited at this time of season, but so much energy in and around the sport of NHRA drag racing, so much energy, the way we concluded last year. And so I know there was some negativity about the way we presented the Tony Stewart story out there at PRI, but I've crunched the numbers, Alan. I'm looking at top stories for 2024, and Smoke, who is doing a big media tour in Tampa right now to promote the Gator Nationals, is right at the top of my list. How do you not get excited to see how one of auto racing's biggest names does against drag racing's best in Mission Foods drag racing? To me, that's got me just super excited, Tony Stewart.
Anybody that has a fan base, a fan following, and is beloved as Tony Stewart is throughout motorsports, and yes, I know there are people that don't like him, but play along with me on this, want to see what they can do in other sports. How big a deal was it when Michael Jordan decided he was going to play baseball? Right. Non-baseball fans were going, okay, I got to see this. I want to see if this guy can do this. I want to see what happens. And it gave baseball an opportunity to get in front of some non-baseball fans. Now, I'm sure most hardcore big league baseball fans are going, big deal. Another guy who thinks it's easy and is going to come try it. So what? Hey, come on, right? Come on in. The water's fine. We'll show you. I doubt seriously that hardcore inside baseball fans cared at all or very much. Kind of like hardcore inside drag racing fans. Okay, so what? Another guy's coming in to drive a top fuel car. But for those who don't live inside that circle, you now have an excuse to tune in, to watch. And that, one, gives us a chance to hook new fans. And two, it's a big story. I mean, if Tony Stewart was going to go race Formula One, you don't think Formula One would be screaming, blasting trumpets and running flags up, come see Tony Stewart race Formula One? If Antron Brown was going to go, race in NASCAR in the Xfinity Series, you don't think NASCAR would be going, a top fuel champion from NHRA is coming over here. He's going to give us a try. And that's what it is. It's crossover. It is a big story to those who are not in the bubble. And I applaud Tony. I mean, I think that, when he came into NHRA, he was very accessible. He was very agreeable. Somebody wanted him to do a press conference. I'd like to do it. Well, you don't want to do it? What time? What can I do to help? What can I do? He has gotten involved and basically fallen in love with drag racing. And I think it's terrific. I don't know, for the media tour in Tampa, who would you send down there who would generate more of a buzz than Tony Stewart? You could send Matt Hagan, right? 4-time champion. Okay. All right. But even, whether you're hardcore fans or if you're a casual fan, okay, Matt Hagan's won 4 championships and he's coming back and he's going to race some more. Okay, good. You could send Antron, you could send Doug Kalitta. But if you send Tony Stewart, one, he's got so much name recognition outside of drag racing. I think people will tune into some of the morning shows just to see what Tony Stewart has to say, whether it's drag racing or not. And that gives us a chance to hook him. Then you go on Google or you go on NHRA.com or you go do your stuff and go, okay, why is this a big deal? Oh, this is Tony's first year racing at the highest professional level. That's news. That's something that needs to get out there. The fact that Tony's willing to do it, I think is terrific. And the fact that I think he's the best guy that could do that, I think is terrific. And now it's up to us. If we get those new fans to come to Gainesville or to tune in on NHRA on Fox or to come to whatever race they come to, and when we get to your neighborhood, now it's up to us to turn them into fans. We love getting people come out and give us a shot, give us a look for the first time, give us a chance to turn you into a fan. If you've never been to a live event, it's not the same as watching on TV. If you haven't been to an event in 15, 20, 30 years, it's not the same as it used to be. You need to come out and see what it is live and in person now. And I think we hook 80% of the people that come out and give us a shot. It's not going to be for everybody. There's always going to be somebody that, right, it's too loud, it's too hot. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
sissies. But give us a chance.
Can I still say that? I think I can. They're just said people who are not quite tough. They don't have the fortitude. It is loud.
But it's not for everybody. I mean, there have been plenty of things, and I'm not throwing rocks. I've been to, a couple of hockey games. They were okay. They were kind of fun to watch. They didn't turn me into a hockey fan. I didn't grow up on skates. I didn't grow up where it's cold. I didn't grow up, and I appreciate the game. I appreciate what they do. But I went out, I looked, and it's like, okay, you didn't hook me. Well, we're not going to hook everybody either. But come out and give us a look before you decide that it's not for you.
Yeah, definitely. In the end, though, like all this hype, right? The hype, Tony. And I get it. I get anybody, like a person rejecting any story that comes at them a lot. Talked about it on the Ignition Show last night. It was a great Ignition Show, but we referenced it's Super Bowl week, Alan. You'll be required to make a pick by the end of the show. But the Taylor Swift stuff, there are a lot of people that are just rejecting that because there's too much of it, right? Right now, they're like, it's infected WFO, Taylor Swift. I can't get away from her. But that's repetition of a story. Like, it's a big deal. There's new people. They're interested. They're becoming interested. They're becoming interested in drag racing because they know Tony, because they like Tony. If you already love drag racing, if you already love the Chiefs, who's this girl coming in? Why is she getting all this attention? What's the big deal? We're here every week. You just went down that road. We have to be open and welcoming to these new people. They're Tony Stewart sprint car fans, USAC fans, Tony Stewart, Eldora track owner fans, Tony Stewart, Attitude Racer fans. And now they're going to watch him go up against Steve Torrence, our traditional drag racing champion. That's exciting and it's interesting. And so if, it's John Force, gets a lot of people. They don't like talking about John. John gets all the attention. Well, John is your biggest support. John is the person people want to talk about the most, and you're just rejecting it. Well, now we got Tony Stewart too. So you can't be upset or irritated at both. You got to just go with it. And so far, there's been no indication that Tony is going to be anything but strong behind the seat of that Top Fuel dragster.
Well, I agree. He's getting in a proven car. Obviously, the car that was finished third in the points last year and had a legitimate shot to win the title, last run of the year for the title. So he's getting in a good car. He proved in the A fuel machine that he's capable of getting the thing out the starting line on time, doing what he needs to do. I think there'll be a small adjustment period because obviously a Top Fuel car is quite a bit faster than an A fuel car. But he has made enough runs over the course of the last year that I don't think it's not going to take him 6 races to adjust. So he now needs to hit the track and needs to do something. And I believe full well that he will. But, if we're on our way to Charlotte and Tony hadn't won first round yet, then people aren't going to care as much anymore. I don't think that's going to be the issue at all. I think he's going to go out there. I'm not saying he's going to win the first 5 races, but I think he's going to go out there and make noise and make his presence known, which is what he needs to do. And we'll continue to build on that and continue to go. I love the fact that he and Doug Kalitta are going to be racing at some point head to head for the first time since they were in USAC midgets. I think that's cool. I'm going to tell that story when it comes up. So, there's so many angles there. And, you mentioned Taylor Swift. She actually reached out to me last week and wanted to be on the show. And I told her no. I said, after you've come to an NHRA event, then give Joe a call and he'll see if he can squeeze you into the schedule. Cause he's kind of busy during the season, but you have to go to an event first and then try again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since you've already done it, I guess.
If anybody believes that.
Yeah. No, they don't believe it. They didn't believe any of it, but it's just about perspective, right? And I generally try, I don't always feel positive about everything, but generally I try to see the bright side and the positive side of things. And this weekend at the Super Bowl, if there's 5 million teenage girls that don't give a rat's about football enjoying that sport because the person that they like is enjoying the sport, how do you turn that into a negative, right? And we should try to see that and emulate it. That's why we have Sean, the What No Way guy, who's coming on WFO, by the way, come out to make a connection with people. And
Sure.
Tony Stewart's got a lot of people that follow him and love him, and hopefully they will become connected to drag racing the way we are, the way he is, and put on a tremendous show. So that's my top story. Now, my secondary story, you know, obviously underneath that, you got Hagen going for 5. You got Dickie Venables, the crew chief, and like, how long is Dickie going to stick around? Like, there, you know, there's all these different angles and stories that we can dive into. But the number 2 story for me is, can Doug Kalitta stay on top? Doug Kalitta has been fighting to be the champion for all of these years, and Conrad moved heaven and earth and brought in Alan Johnson, and Alan Johnson did his thing. Alan Johnson back on top after the Capco run, after the Grubnick run, after all these runs. But now AJ is back on top. He's back on the throne, if you will, with Doug Kalitta as his driver. Did they just get there to be knocked off the top the following year, or are they going to make a run at this thing? Can Doug Kalitta and Alan Johnson and Kalitta Motorsports turn a one-off into a dynasty? Like, that's what I am excited about in Top Fuel.
Well, I'm not using the word dynasty by any wild stretch of the imagination.
It's hyperbole. Give me a break. I'm, you know, come on. I'm trying to get people excited.
But history would indicate that when Alan Johnson gets rolling, he usually continues rolling. You know, you look back at the number of times he's been able to string championships together, back in the Team Winston days with Gary Selzy, through the Alanabi days with a couple of different drivers, through, of course, the whole run with Tony Schumacher in the U.S. Army. You know, he's won and left his footprint pretty much everywhere. And I'm certainly not ready to send the trophy out and have Doug's name engraved on it. But I can guarantee you, when we get down towards the last couple of races of the year, Doug Kalitta is still going to be in that conversation. Because when Alan Johnson, Brian Houston, those guys get going, we know that they're just smooth. You know, you look at John Force's team back in the day when they were stringing them all together in the 90s and doing what they were doing. No turnover or minimal turnover, good budget, and everything they need to go racing. And that's what Alan and Brian have. It took a while after they lost their crew, because when they made the move from Mike Salinas to Kalitta, everybody other than Brian and Alan opted to stay in Indianapolis. They didn't want to move. They didn't want to pack up their families and move their lives to Michigan, which is where Kalitta's home base is. So they had to go up there and start with a new crew. And I think that a lot of maybe casual fans got a little bit better understanding of how important those crew guys are, because you need the job done exactly the same way every time. You need an understanding. You know, if I say this is what I want, this is what you need to deliver me. And you need to just make sure that everything is perfect every time. And it takes time to get everybody on that same page. Well, they're all there now. You know, once they won that race out in Reading, they were very strong, obviously, at the end of the year, winning 3 of the races in the countdown. And I don't see any signs of them slowing down. I think they've got, I believe they brought everybody back as far as the crew goes. And again, budget's not going to be an issue up there. I think that a little part of their focus is going to be try to get Sean Langdon's car back up in the realm of you know, competitiveness, which it very much, well, it wasn't nearly as they expected it to be last year. But with Max Savage making the move up there, and I think that that car is going to come back around. But no, I think Doug is going to be right in the mix of it. You know, Steve Torrence got a chip on his shoulder. It's been a few years now, and he has not lost the fire by any means. I think, you know, Brittany's car is going to be strong again. I think having JC come over and work with David Grubnick. I think John Force made a mistake when he broke up David Grubnick, Max Savage, because he wanted to try to shore up his funny car team a little bit, and that really didn't work out for either one of them. But I think that JC going over and working with David Grubnick is going to make Brittany's team even stronger than it was. I expect Tony Stewart, again, he's getting in a car that finished 3rd. I expect him to be strong. I expect some others to step up. You know, Antron's going to be a player. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of question marks out there, right? Can Mike Salinas get on a roll? We know Mike Salinas at times can be brilliant. Can they be consistently brilliant? Because if he can, he's got all the ingredients to make it work. You know, and then you've got, you know, new guys coming in. You got guys like Sean Reed. What's he going to do? You got guys like Tony Schumacher, who's got a big chip on his shoulder right now.
Oh,
Feels like he's got something to prove. Justin Ashley, I don't believe that, I don't believe they're going to lose any performance just because they put a different name on the side of that car. So Top Fuel is going to be, it's going to be really fun this year to watch.
Very exciting stuff. And you referenced a couple of points that I definitely want to go a little bit deeper in as we watch the sport get tougher and tougher. Pete says he thinks that the competition is tougher now than when Steve Torrence went on his run. I think Steve would agree with that, right? I think Steve is the reason that the competition has gotten tougher, just like Tony Schumacher was the reason it got tougher and tougher with Antron going out there and having success. And remember when Antron used to beat up on Steve, and then Steve beat up on Antron, and everybody has been forced to just get better and better. Hey, I want to remind everybody, subscribe on the YouTube. We're closing in on a subscriber milestone. It wasn't long ago that we had like 200 subscribers, and we've just been dutifully growing, and you guys are switching over. Of course, the WFO app is going to be replaced by just using the native app. So subscribe on YouTube, share the show, and be a part of it, because we're going to be posting a lot of stuff. Speaking of YouTubers, Clay Millican put his Top Fuel dragster on Cletus McFarland's chassis dyno yesterday, because, McFarland is located right next door to Victor Alvarez's Bradenton Motorsports Park. So they towed that thing over there. Clay, of course, we're big fans of Clay, and his YouTube career is amazing. And they put a Top Fuel dragster on a dyno. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happened if you didn't already see. You got to go through the whole process because it's cool anyway, right? But I've always heard, Alan, that the Nitro engine that makes 11 to 12,000 horsepower is too powerful for any dyno. What do you know about that?
Well, I don't know any dyno that would hold one. So, the fact that they went over and went through the exercise to put it up there and try it, and watch it. The video is kind of cool. I think that's cool. I think, having Cletus, who 3.5 million followers or something like that, I think that's great. Cletus obviously is very well aware of NHRA. He knows what we do. He races, with the cars that he's got. He puts on one of his Cletus and Cars shows at Indianapolis Raceway Park, or Lucas Oil Raceway, Indianapolis. And he's very well aware of what we do. If I'm not mistaken, didn't they match race Mullet against an alcohol funny car? At the time when Cletus had his Cletus and Cars event going, was the same time they were running the Lucas Oil alcohol event at Indianapolis Raceway. Lucas Oil at Indianapolis, whatever. What's the name of that place now?
Where?
Indianapolis
Raceway Park, presented by Lucas Oil.
I don't know, whatever. Lucas, Indy, IRP.
Yeah, we know what you're talking about. Like, it's the most amazing place. The place that doesn't have a tower anymore. They used to have this amazing tower, but now there's going to be something bigger and better. Maybe not bigger, but definitely better in its, I can't even say in its place. We'll just have to see where it will go. But you get the point.
I think it's great. I'd love to have Cletus, come out and have, make an appearance at some national events. Bring a couple of his cars, have him do the car corral, put Leroy out there, put Mullet out there, and put some of his stuff out there that he goes out and plays with, because we're all doing the same thing, right? We're all trying to build cars to attack a drag strip. Now, whatever level you're on, doesn't matter. I love Stock Eliminator like I love Top Fuel, because anybody that's out there spending their time and money and doing what they do to try to go faster, to try to make their car better, and Cletus is absolutely one of those guys.
Okay. Caleb Cox, who is a buddy, is out there. And sure. Caleb, of course, GM for Cruise, and excited about Cruise. A lot of changes over there at Cruise as well. But he says Salinas is a heavy favorite this weekend because Rob Flynn is 3-0 when family members are born on race weekends. Stacy, daughter, win. Paul, son, win. Wesley, grandson, win. Bethley, grandson, we'll see Saturday. Well, congratulations, of course, to the Flynn family. That interesting logic. We'll see, Caleb. But to me, though,
that's a heck of a stat. Who keeps that?
Caleb, come on, it's his family, of course. But Rob Flynn and Salinas and 340. Like, to me, like the story of the weekend coming up here, and like I think people are going to try to run 340. And Salinas has been telling us he can run 340 if the candles stay lit and all of that stuff. Caleb is making it about the birth of family members, but that's a team that I've got my eye on.
And a lot of people do. The 340 has been hanging out there for a long time, and it's interesting because there's been a lot of internet hype about, it's absolutely going to happen. It's going to happen Thursday night, no doubt about it. Really? Why? I'm not saying that it can't. Bradenton's a good racetrack. They've got good weather, but Redding's a good racetrack. We've had good weather. Seattle's a good racetrack. We've had good weather. Vegas is a good racetrack. And people have been close, but they haven't got there yet. If it happens, that's wonderful. It won't count officially, but it'll prove that it can be done. And I'm kind of like everybody else. I'm not kind of like everybody else because I'm going to wait and see. And a lot of the people already have, decided that they've got T-shirts made. They're just not 100% sure whose name to put on top of them yet.
That's exactly. Larry says that was a Lewis Bloom type stat. I don't know. Yeah. That was so personal. Lewis has actually had some sort of, detail and thought. Email went out from John Force Racing this morning. They didn't always used to do this, but now they do it, and I like it. John Force Racing announces team lineups for 2024. You mentioned a couple of them, obviously, but I did have a question mark about Chris Cunningham. Chris is a friend. I'm a fan. The Darrell Gwynn tie, the South Florida tie. Chris Cunningham is one of the current representatives of Miami Hollywood Speedway history, as am I, in NHRA drag racing right now. And he has been added to John's team with Fabrizi and Danny Hood. So the John Force team, and that brings us to story number 3. I think John Force is always a top NHRA story. It doesn't matter. He's a little older. He's a little cagier. He always is, putting out that, I'm so old and I'm trying to get it done. But the John Force that I watched last year, after Pomona, like that was a difficult incident. Cap came on this show, and if it was any other driver, we wouldn't even be talking about it again. But since it got so much hype because it's John Force, we're going to address it. But Cap said that right lane at Pomona is the hardest lane to drive in all of drag racing. I've heard other drivers say that too. So that one race notwithstanding, it was a terrible deal, especially for J.R. Todd. John Force didn't win a race, but had himself a pretty good year. And now you add world champion crew chief Chris Cunningham to Danny Hood and Tim Fabrizi. John Force, big story. What do you see?
Well, I think that, they've had a good car at times, but they haven't had a good car 4 runs in a row on Sunday. And that's been kind of their Achilles heel. If Chris is the missing ingredient that can go over there and figure out what they're missing or what they need to focus on or then I think it's a plus. I don't see any way that it's a minus. So we'll just have to wait and see how the results tally as we go through the season. But I'm not sure. And that's exactly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure where Chris fits in the hierarchy. Does he the number 1 guy? Is he the number 2 guy? Or is he going to be just kind of the extra set of eyes overseeing while Fabrizi and Danny do what they've done the last couple of years? But I don't see anything about that makes it a negative. I can't imagine any Nitro team in drag racing being adversely affected by adding Chris Cunningham.
Yeah, it's the lounge, right? Like something I wish, and I know we will get to see, and it's just about transparency with the teams, is those conversations. Like, we should do this. Maybe we should do this. Well, what's the difference between those two things? Should we split the difference? Should we go aggressive? Should we lay up? That's very interesting. And you've made a point of it over the years. It's good to have an aggressive guy and a conservative guy together sometimes, to yin and yang with each other. The days of one person just making the call and calling the shots and covering the car, that it's not like that anymore. You got Aaron Brooks over there with Tasca, and you got Todd Okahara over there with Tasca. I don't know who's whom, because I felt like they were both kind of home run hitters. I don't know, over the years, but it's just going to be interesting to see Chris go in there with John. And look, here's the deal. John always gets in trouble every time he mentions anything related to his career. It happened a couple of months ago on the EPAR trade thing. He said, yeah, we've got plans for backups, and people went crazy. But then it came prophetic because Austin had to back up Robert. So John was actually maybe telling us something there, and we didn't even know what he was telling us, or maybe that's all coincidence. But my point is, John Force is a limited resource. Is it 5 years? What is it? We don't know exactly. We don't need to know exactly. But we know when we watch John Force stage that we're in the final 25% of his career. We know that. It's the fourth quarter. And anybody that's got a problem acknowledging that, like, what's with you?
Well, obviously he's got more races behind him than he's got in front of him, but he'll be the one that decides, and he'll be the one that walks away on his own terms. I don't know, he and I have spoken in, general terms, and he has said basically what you said. I know I can't do this forever, but I'm not ready to give up yet. So we'll just have to wait and see, and I think, if he has a great season, then does he decide, what? Okay, I'm, kind of back in my stride? Because I don't think, if you're John, I don't think you would want to announce, okay, you know what? I'm going on my retirement tour, coming off of a season where you didn't win a race and where you didn't really showcase the ability that we know your team is capable of. So if they have a great year next year, and I'm not saying win the championship, but, win a couple of races, make some noise, but, be a part of the conversation. Would that be the incentive for him to say, okay, you know what, we're going to do the swan song. We're going to do that, because I don't see John dropping the mic. Even if he was to win the championship, I don't see John at Pomona going, that's it. See ya. I think that he is absolutely going to do a appreciation last tour, simply because he's, been out there for so long. He's such an institution. He's so beloved by the fans. I don't think he would walk away without letting everybody know that, okay, you've got one more chance to come out and see me behind the wheel. And obviously, once he makes that decision, whether it's, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, or 25 years from now, how old was the Greek again? Then he can, he's still going to be around.
100. He wasn't 100. Now, it is Kandarian.
John's not going to vanish. He's still going to be there. He's still going to be a team owner. He's still going to be out there overseeing. He's still going to be out there working with and for his sponsors and doing what he needs to do. So, just a matter of how much longer he's going to be putting on the helmet. And right now, he still believes he can do it. And I'm certainly not arguing with him. I've been watching him a long time, and I still believe he can do it.
I believe he can do it too. Like like anybody who's going after, like, there's obviously differences and changes, but the fastball pitcher that becomes the junk pitcher later on in his career and extends his career. John Force has done a great job, and I have, nothing but support for John Force in his endeavor. All right. I'm going to take a quick pause before we talk pro stock, because everybody in the chat section, and if you're new to WFO Radio, welcome to you. We do this show every week, every single week. The podcast feeds are up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. You can take the show on the road. You definitely don't have to look at our mugs. But those of you who can see in the background that Alan Reinhart's got that Hemmy back there, and everybody wants to know the Hemmy update. And for all you people who don't understand the internet, Joe seems to get blurry occasionally. It's on your end, guys. It's called the internet. Deal with it. Reinhart, tell us about the Hemmy.
Made a little bit of progress. Obviously you can see the blower sitting on it now. I wanted to get the pulleys aligned and get that kind of taken care of. This thing has been a learning process for me step by step, because I've been around drag racing a long time, but this predates me. And I did dabble with some Chrysler stuff back in the day with my Roadrunner, and I had friends that had cars, but never Hemmy stuff. It just wasn't in my realm. So this thing has been a bit of a learning experience, one, because it's a time capsule. And one of the latest things I learned is, back in the day, the manifolds that were made for these things were made for 6 and 871 blowers, which physically have the same footprint, at least on the bottom. As the blowers got bigger, the 10 and 1271s, they needed a bigger opening on the bottom. So what they did was just basically machine the back of the manifold off, weld a new chunk of aluminum in, and then remachine it. So you would extend the bottom blower opening from here to here to take the 10 or 1271 blower. Well, this motor is going in a 1970 nostalgia car, and it wants to be period correct. And to be period correct, it's going to have the 671 blower on it, which has got on it now. So when I started mocking the thing up this is after, I put it together, I put a 4-barrel carburetor on a regular manifold 4-barrel carburetor, started it just to make sure it had oil pressure and everything did what it was supposed to do. And that's okay. Now let's go ahead and get the induction system, put the manifold on it, put the blower on it. And there's about this big a gap behind the blower that the manifold is just wide open. Well, there's 2 fixes for that. You either cut a chunk of aluminum, weld the thing all back up and machine it again, or you make a plate to go under the blower. So I made a plate, and now the whole thing is sitting together. You can see it doesn't have an injector on it. The injector is down at Ron's. having the line spent and the stuff for the hat nozzles, and if we got the pulley alignment set. Really appreciate, Brad Littlefield. Every time I've had a question, needed something, I call Brad and he said, okay, well, here's where you need to go. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to look at. So it's getting there. My hope is maybe next week, have the hat on it, have all of the stuff together and fired up on alcohol. I'm one step at a time, because if I find something that I need to address, I don't want it to be like in the car ready to go and then go, oh, man, I'm going to pull the manifold off again for something. So once I get all that done, I'm going to try to fire it up on alcohol and just make sure everything's where it needs to be. And then at that point, it'll just be waiting for the car to be finished so we can put it in the car.
Excellent. And there is your Reinhart Hemmy update. Those of you who want the CUDA update, you'll have to get that at a later date. And yes, I'm not afraid to yell at the audience. That's the kind of show.
The CUDA update is there it is.
There it is, the CUDA. Like you always wanted one, Alan, and now you got one. There it is.
I put the carburetor back on it. That's the CUDA update.
There it is.
Because I took the carburetor off the Barracuda when I needed to start the Hemmy. So
put it right back where it goes. Hey, progress. Project Pontiac, making progress. Got Wilson manifolds, got the manifold, got the cylinder heads. Gary
Wilson? What Wilson manifolds?
Yeah. My buddy, he's a friend, right? Like Wilson. We're South Florida. We've got a great racing high performance community.
Like a sheet metal custom manifold?
No. He's taken our Edelbrock intake that it's a Victor, along with our Edelbrock cylinder heads, and John Gadosh did the CNC port. But then Keith Wilson from Wilson Manifolds was like, Joe, this is at PR. He goes, are you sending me this stuff? I was like, well, Keith, I really hadn't thought about it. Keith was one of the first sponsors on WFO Radio. And he's like, well, we want to make the angles. Alan, the angles, the angles got to be right? The angles. And so they've got they got the manifold and the cylinder heads. Man, it's going to be a bad super street ride, right?
It's going to make 1,000+.
It's not. No. We got a target. And the target was, we're comfortable saying 800. Given the limitations of the Pontiac architecture. But
wasn't it 700 last time?
It was. I was told to update my deal that we can say 8. You know me, I'm lowering expectations. I don't want to come in lower,
and
whatever.
You're going to be told to update again when you get the manifold back from Keith.
No, it's not going to be that great. But people are asking me though, why Super Street, Joe? Like, why don't you go out and run some sort of, and I don't struggle, but I try to make people understand that I love the idea of going to the racetrack, knowing that I will have a chance to maybe win. Whereas putting together a go fast car on a budget like I have means I will never win. There will always be someone that can crush me with their budget. But in .90 racing, once the car is set up, I have as much a chance of winning on any given day as anybody else with what I have. And I don't have to be constantly searching for horsepower. I just don't think people quite understand that feeling. You set up a car to go fast as you can afford. It goes 850s. You bring it out to the track. You're super excited for a month or two. And then the guy that has got an 840 car is whooping your butt, man. And you're slow and you got to go back to work or just take it. And in the .90 classes, you don't have that, in my opinion.
Well, that's why super stock should be because I'm just trying to think how many A modifieds are in the country.
6.
John Clegg.
Yeah, this is not an A modified. Moving on. Pro stock. Time to talk pro stock. There's your project. There is your Project Pontiac update, guys. You can follow the hashtag Project Pontiac, and we're going to be doing more and more. I just want to keep Reinhart.
Yeah, if it was going to be an A modified, you'd have to get Keith to make you a sheet metal 4-barrel manifold.
Yeah, exactly. We're not doing.
He needs a sheet metal 4-barrel manifold.
Don't do it, Keith. Don't do it. Pro stock. All right, the factory hot rods category that so many are interested in. Here's the top story. Can anyone stop Erica? Can anyone stop the red car? That's the story. Like, there's a whole bunch of stories and this and that and the other thing. But what, in my opinion, these are my opinions. Who's going to stop Erica? How are you going to stop Erica? What's your plan for stopping Elite Motorsports, Richard Freeman, Erica Enders? Who's going to do that? How are they going to do that? That's the story from my perspective, because I don't see
kidnapping is still frowned upon, right?
What's that?
Kidnapping is still frowned upon?
Yeah, since the whole Nancy Kerrigan thing, it's just the kneecapping of people is
No,
fine.
no, I don't want that. But, if you just, lock her up someplace for, 3 races in the countdown, that might do it.
Maybe.
I don't think, Erica's going to be a player again. But, you look at what happened last year. They struggled during the first half of the season and were finally able to turn it around. It's going to be, as it always is, especially in pro stock, who gets hot at the right time, right? If Dallas Glenn had the car at the end of the year that he had at the beginning of the year, he'd have the number 1 on his car. If Aaron Stanfield had the car at the end of the year that he had during a section in the middle of the year, he'd have the number 1 on his car. It's a matter of, making sure that you've got your ducks lined up to get hot at the right time. And Jeg Coughlin being back is certainly going to make it more difficult for everybody out there, because Jeg has proven, he doesn't have to have the best car to win. Just put him in the neighborhood and put him on the racetrack, and he'll make up the difference and get it done. So that's going to be more difficult. But, just the competition level from front to back in pro stock is, I still think, as fun as it's going to be. I will be stunned, and you can, mark this on the tape. I will be stunned if we get to the banquet next year and there has not been a quadra in the winner's circle in pro stock, because I really think that they are literally knocking on the door. They've made some final rounds now. They've shown solid progress. So I think that there will be at least one quadra that goes home with a trophy next year. I don't think Greg's going anywhere. It's obviously, the new faces that are coming in are going to be interesting. You look at Sienna Wildgust, she's going to have a real good race car. So how long will it take her to get acclimated? How long will it take her to get in the swing of the competition level with pro stock? And I think there's going to be a lot of stories to follow. I will also be stunned if we get to the banquet and nobody named McGahey has picked up a trophy next year, because I think that's a team that's got a bit of a chip on their shoulder after they've struggled a little bit for the last season and a half. So I think that, they didn't waste a whole lot of time during the winter break. I don't think they took a whole lot of vacations or a whole lot of days off when there wasn't something going on in the engine shop and in the dyno room. So I look for them to be even more competitive than they have been in the past. And, with them being back on the full tour again, I think it's going to be fun. I think you look at a guy like Matt Hartford. Matt Hartford was a guy that would win a race every once in a while. Last year, he graduated to guy who wins multiple races and is part of the championship conversation. I think he likes that feeling. I think that he and Eddie and the entire team have a little bit more confidence, a little bit more pep in their step than they had the last couple of years. And I think he's going to be out gunning for it again this year. So I just think there's stories in pro stock from top to bottom. And there's going to be a whole lot of stuff to watch, a whole lot of things to look at. I don't see anybody winning 6 races. Now, every time I say that, somebody goes out and wins 12. So, but I just think that I think pro stock may be the most wide open of the pro categories as far as number of teams with a legitimate shot to end up in the winner's circle.
Yeah, very, very exciting, and has been. Hartford got a new car. Last year's car didn't really fit all the new manifold technology that they had at KB Titan. So he's got a new car coming. Connolly is shaking it down this weekend. That's exciting. But I think, the road goes through Erica. And Ant Dog out there, said anything can happen. Yeah, anything can happen. But what is likely to happen? And so we'll see. Larry Anders says that Tanya Harding did bracket race a few times locally, by the way. I don't know about that. I don't know what he's talking about. And this gentleman says, can you explain the new rule for pro stock and will it affect anyone? The rule change was posted on NHRARacer.com. Andrew, I went to NHRARacer.com to see what you might be referencing. I need more than that, man. Come on, give us a break. Like, what do you mean? Reference, give us something. Give us something, Andrew. Come on now. The thing that happened? What's your comment? What's your comment, Alan, on the thing that happened?
I hadn't seen a rule change on NHRA.com recently.
No, me either. Part of me is suspicious that the guy is just making up stuff, is what I think.
Well, here, do you full screen yourself for a second? Well, I don't know. I guess I'm still on camera.
I just went there. I just went to NHRARacer.com. There's nothing. Open position, National Field Office Representative. Is anyone looking for a job? You looking for a job, man? Come on, Scarface.
Yeah, open position for Division 4 too. That was kind of depressing, wasn't it? I like Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie and Matt, man. Maddie and Matt. We both of those two, they're starting a family, the whole thing, but I liked them both greatly. Like they were, they're not dead, by the way. Like, they were good people. Life goes on after employment, but I still am going to miss him. Yeah, if you think you're capable of being a division director, why don't you apply for that job? While Alan Reinhart is looking for news, I've got a little news. The folks at Getrix, Hartford, Getrix is going to be on board with Hartford all year long. And of course, the call-out races, but the official credit card processor of NHRA multi-year partnership, which is cool. I always wondered, Getrix, we've been talking about them processing credit cards in the NHRA for many years, and now they're official credit card processor of the NHRA. That's exciting. Way to go, Steven Scott.
I found the rule change.
Okay, good. What is it?
It says the ECU must run the NHRA spec V6 firmware. I don't know what change that is. And then it's got fun with the 3.5-inch screen and without, and then the intake manifold plenum must be free and clear of any diffusers, including but not limited to airfoils, baffles, screens, and the surface of the plenum area must remain smooth. And I will tell you, with every bit of expertise that I have no idea if that's going to make a difference or not, because I don't know what was going on inside most of those Pro Stock manifolds, just like nobody other than the team knows what's going on inside their Pro Stock manifold. So I don't know if that's going to have an effect or not.
And for those of you that are WFO members, VIP members, the Hear It From Heiner Pro Stock show referenced this weeks ago. Michael Heiner talked all about it. The firmware, right? Like there was this new firmware, according to Michael Heiner. See, this is why, Andrew, had you been able to reference like what you were actually talking about, I could have given you an answer instead of looking like I have no idea what I'm talking about when I do. Michael Heiner talks about the whole thing on Hear It From Heiner for our members. Gives you a lot more. The new firmware gives you a bunch of different options, things that you can do within the firmware. We'll wait and see. Last year, there was talk, everybody's always wondering, is anybody else trying to get away with anything, right? It's competitive motorsports. The honor system, does it work? I don't know. What do you think, Alan? Does the honor system work?
My personal feeling from the time that I was involved in the sport is I don't know of anybody during that time that was blatantly cheating. Now, having said that, if there's no rule that says you can't do this and you decide to do it, I think that's being competitive. I think that's being in a gray area. When I was with Nickens, we did a couple of things that there was no rule against. And when it was discovered what we were doing, that they made a new rule. So are there guys out there that are experimenting in ways that aren't covered in the rule book? Absolutely. It's called racing. I mean, and since the history of time, if I can find an advantage, and it's not exactly like Smokey Yunick. Smokey Yunick used to think his philosophy was simple. If it is not absolutely outlawed, it must be okay. And that certainly isn't true. But if there was nothing in the rule book that said you can't have, air ducts or airfoils or things inside the manifold, then people probably were doing that, because trying to get equal airflow into a 500 cubic inch engine with naturally aspirated, without forced induction, when the opening of the manifold is up in front of the number one cylinder, trying to get equal distribution to the cylinders in the front and the cylinders to the back has got to be a little bit of a headache. And so if guys were doing some airfoils or some kind of ducting inside the manifold plenum, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. But if there's no rule against it, that's not cheating. That's doing what you need to do to try to go out and win races. And it's exactly on the same theory of the Nitro guys when they started moving the blower backwards, because they realized a Roots blower with twisted rotors, like everybody runs, forces all the air to the front. So the front cylinders would always be getting more air and needing a vastly different tune-up than the rear cylinders. Well, how do we fix that? Well, what if we just move the blower back so all the air is being blown in the middle of the manifold instead of the front of the manifold? Well, there was something there. And so that's why that now is the state of the art, is that, everybody, if you want to run in top fuel these days, you want to be competitive, you got the blower back set, because that helps equalize the distribution. So were they doing things inside the manifold to equalize the distribution? I imagine they were. I don't know. I have, again, if you're not part of the team, probably not a whole lot of guys have seen inside the KB manifolds. Probably not a whole lot of guys have seen inside Richard Freeman's manifolds. I remember when fuel injection first became a thing. What was that, 15, 16, something like that? When Greg and Jason looked like they were going to run the table and win every race, and they were, in some places close to a 10th in front of the field. Having a beer with Richard Freeman one night, and he basically said, I'd pay $100,000 to see the inside of their manifold. But nobody's going to show it to them. So what did they do? They went to work. They, got together with Carl Foltz. They got together with someone and said, well, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, until they figured out this is the better way to go about it. So, if it's not illegal, and as a simple point of reference, one of the things that we did, and I actually believe this started in the motorcycle ranks. It didn't start with us, but was we would offset the cylinder banks according to the center line of the crankshaft. The rule book said you have to have a 45-degree V8. Okay, 45-degree V8, crankshaft is in the middle. But what if you move this bank this way and this bank this way? It's still 45 degrees, but you basically have freed up the rotation so that when you're coming up to top dead center, the crank and the rod has already gone past that point, and it really does free up the rotating assembly a little bit. Is it a magic bullet? Was it worth 100 horsepower? No. Was it worth something? Yeah, it was worth something. And we did that for a while. There was no rule against it. Our engine was a 45-degree V8. We had exactly the same block, and we would order the blocks basically raw. So they'd come with, in essence, a 2.5-inch bore, which gave you so much room that you literally could angle the cylinders, away from the crank, one down and one up. And we did that for a while. Well, the rule book now says 45-degree, or it says 90-degree V8, with each cylinder bank being at a 45-degree off of the center line of the crank and cam. So they have to now be straight. Well, now that they've made that rule, I don't think anybody's doing that. But it wasn't a rule when we did it.
There you go. And I think that's the essence of racing. So we'll just wait and see. But the firmware apparently has a lot more adjustability. And so we'll get into
I think that's good then. I've never heard anybody say, I wish we had less area to tune an engine. If it's giving you more opportunities, then it's got to be better.
Maybe someone will show us inside one of the manifolds when we get to the track that is no longer legal, right? Like, what were you guys doing? That's usually when people allow you to see stuff, is when it's no longer applicable. Alan, any final thoughts? Got Julie Natas on the show, 12 noon tomorrow, Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time. Going to talk with our Lucas Oil champ. I see McNeil Freeman is out there in the chat section. McNeil with the taxi has been doing all kinds of updates to his stock eliminator machine this year. I think Darren Poole Adams has been helping him out. Something exciting with McNeil and stock eliminator. There's so many different categories to talk about. I can tell you that we've got interviews scheduled with Kyle Rizzoli and Wyatt Wagner going to be on the show. Brandon Miller going to be on the show. Julie Natas going to be on the show. So we got a lot of champions coming up in the next couple of weeks. I ask everybody to subscribe and be ready. Do you have a final thought?
Are all four of those junior graduates?
Nowadays, I feel like everybody just is. Like, Alan, we're old, man. We're the ones who aren't. Everybody that races now that's relatively young.
I know. But is Julie a junior graduate? I don't remember if she...
That I don't know. She might have just jumped in the big cars for all I know. No, she is. No, I remember her saying in her speech that she started out in juniors over there.
Okay. Well, my last thing is not at all drag race related, but it's, kind of on a sad note. You had to see that, right?
No.
Keith passed away this morning?
Yes, I did. Yes, I saw. And
so, as a general rule, I drink a lot of water throughout the course of the day, and I'm going to be drinking it today out of a red Solo cup. And tonight, there's a better than even money chance that a beer will come out of that chiller and end up in a red Solo cup.
Yeah, a lot of people, very, very big during the.
I said Keith. It's Toby Keith. I'm sorry.
Toby Keith. You said, but that's his last name, Toby Keith. Very, very big. Got a lot of people through our involvement, military involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. Like he had a couple of really big songs. 62.
Yeah,
too young. Very, very young. Unfortunate. All right, real quick before we let you go, Super Bowl pick. Go.
Kansas City.
Why?
Because I don't know. I really think they're the better team. I think they're the better team for one. I think they're playing at a very high level right now. San Francisco obviously is also playing at a very high level right now, or they wouldn't be there. But I think that the Super Bowl experience, yes, San Francisco has been there a lot of times, but how many people on that team have been there? And the Kansas City team is used to, the hype and all the surrounding and all this stuff. And I think that gives them a little edge. I'm hoping that it's a good game, but I think that Kansas City is probably the favorite in my eyes.
I agree. I think I agree with the analysis. I think that Kansas City has been the underdog throughout the playoffs, and people want to keep making them the underdogs, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and they've got an experience, and they got Patrick Mahomes and all of these things. But really, I'm hoping for a great game. And then, obviously we wish our great friends down there in Bradenton, go get them money. Good luck. And we are not far off. Oh, and Earl Nichols says it's really because you're a Swiftie is the whole deal. You and Taylor got close out on the Western Swing last year when we and she were on the road together.
Yeah. I don't think that. I don't think that she was. I wish we could have got her to a drag race. Maybe at some point in the future we can. But no, I think that, like I said, I really think that Kansas City, from the experience standpoint, I think that they rate the nod. At least they do in my house. I think that they've beaten down everybody, well, they can't win on the road. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
Well, they'll never beat the Ravens. Well, now what? I think that they have taken on every challenge, and I just see this as, like I said, their level of experience being in the arena under that brighter spotlight, I think gives them an edge.
Vegas, baby. All right, Alan, great job. We'll talk next week. We'll talk results. We'll see who we're going to go ask, borrow a couple of bucks from. And we'll hopefully have a injector on the top of that Hemmy to talk about. And we'll get closer and closer to Mission Foods drag racing.
Looking forward to it, Joe. Have a great week.
All right, there he goes. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. Guys, I want to know your opinions. I want to hear what you have to say. I want your comments in the comment section. You can do that now where I tell you about a couple of things. Like, first of all, we're pushing subscribe at the start of the season. We have this great conversation each week. We interview the winning drivers here on WFO Radio. Our YouTube channel is really where we're driving everything to, right? Like Clay Millican's a YouTuber and Cletus McFarland's a YouTuber. Maybe I should become a YouTuber also. Where's all the Project Pontiac stuff going to go? But not everybody can watch a screen. And so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts, you can take the show on the road. And the Ignition show is very, very fun. In the chat section, we got a link for our merch. WFO merch, like classic Miami Hollywood Speedway and PBIR shirts, WFO, Morris Motorsports. We got all kinds of good stuff in our WFO store. Go check that out as well. And the shirts go on sale for like $16 on a regular basis. I'm not shipping them out. It's not like I go in there and ship them out. I do that for the Patreon, but that is going to be great. I'm so excited about the start of the season. Speaking of the Patreons, you want to get VIP access. You want to hear it from Heiner Pro Stock Show and really learn all about the firmware update from 3 weeks ago on the show in detail. That's all there, and it's waiting for you. You didn't miss it. It's still there. You can go hear Michael Heiner talk a little bit about that. You get Monday motivation. You get to participate with the Ignition show. I'll send you a t-shirt, stickers, patches, all that, but you got to sign up to become a VIP member of WFO, and that means money, baby. You got to send me the cash. It's a little dirty when I say that. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. Dragster Adventure. Drive a dragster. You driving a dragster. Think about that. You drive a dragster. It doesn't take much. You show up with the clothes on your back. You get 3 runs. You get 1 half track and 2 full track passes. They travel all around the country with the program. They bring the cars, they bring the safety equipment. You show up to the track and you're driving dragsters. How much fun is that? They can even set up a race. Go to frankhawley.com. And when you sign up, be sure to tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. I think it's one of the best single programs to turn racing fans into better fans who maybe might try to drive a race car at some point. RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com, 817-924-6821. That's a phone number. I'll give it again after I tell you about the best coffee in the world. Marvin Rodak, you think about blends, right? He takes beans from all around the world, some of the best locations and plantations all around the world that they grow coffee. He gets the best of the best due to his contracts and negotiations, and then he blends them together in drag racing themed concoctions like the WFO Radio blend, Bang the Blower, and now the one that everybody is loving, myself included, the Stampede of Speed blend, modeled after the Texas Motorplex Stampede of Speed. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. Order yourself a pound or 5 of Stampede of Speed blend, and you'll know what we're talking about. It's a great way to start your day. Plus, hot sauces and spice rubs and grills and tools and tips and information. He's located down there in Fort Worth, Texas. He's a great guy, loves drag racing. Get in on RodaxCoffeeandGrills.com. And then I'm always talking about samtech.edu because they are the reason that all these things we love are going to keep on going. You need the next generation of machinists and engine builders and crew guys and crew members, people who know how to think and how to do with their hands. Samtech, always starting up new classes that are approved to train veterans under the GI Bill, samtech.edu. And when you call Brian Massengill, like I need to, tell him you heard about it on WFO. Our other great sponsors, obviously, Bernie's Speed Shop. This is Josh Hart, Ocala, Florida. Wednesday before the Gator Nationals. Plan your trip there from now, 6 to 9 p.m., massive car show, music, all kinds of great stuff, and you get to tour Bernie's, autograph session. It's going to be amazing, bernies.com. Folks at Foggett, I'm wearing the hat, but it's really about the product. Just look for this can. Everybody in the audience, just get yourself a can of Foggett for all of these things at home. Yes, you can use it on a window crank. It works great, but it's the best of the best for protecting those vital services from corrosion. The inside of the engine is a torture chamber. And then you shut it off, and what happens? Condensation and corrosion at the most microscopic level. Your machinist has taken so much time to get the walls of your stock Eliminator car perfect. So you have ring seal, and then you're not going to protect it, and you're going to let your rings turn to this. Don't do it. Order a can of Foggett right now. Summit Racing Equipment, Amazon.com, and of course, Foggett.com if you want to go directly. Randy Neal, CWT Industries. If it rotates, it can be balanced. These balance machines are amazing. They're digital. They're touchscreen. They work faster. They do a better job. If your machine shop does not have a CWT balancer, you're in the Stone Age. Reach out. Joe at WFORadio.com. I'll put you together with Randy, and we're talking about really big stuff like Caterpillar 3500 earth movers to small block Chevrolets. They got a balancer for everything. Our great friends at FTIperformance.com. Paul Lee stepping up, supporting the Top Sportsman event over there in Bradenton. Paul Lee and the folks at FTI doing a great job making reliable, consistent transmissions for extremely high horsepower, top sportsman, top dragster, .90, big money bracket, and even pro mod machines. FTI located in DeLand, Florida. They've got a great shop. They've got a great team. Follow along, and you can even go to FTIparts.com. You just have to look at the winners. Check out the winners and see who they're running. More often than not, it'll be FTIperformance.com. Our great friends at Total Seal Piston Rings are over there in Bradenton trying to bring home $125,000. Hartford trying to turn his 3 into a 1 in 2024. But if you're using Total Seal, you win automatically because you get the best ring steel and the best technology. Check out Hidden Horsepower. Got a great episode of Hidden Horsepower from PRI up there with Greg Anderson, Larry Morgan, all on the show, Gage Herrera, all talking about being successful, winning championships in the NHRA and using Total Seal piston rings. Also, our great friends, Phillips Connect, Phillips-Connect.com, Jim Epler, Smart Trailer Technology. If you are in charge of a fleet, or if you work on fleets and are interested, email me, joe@wforadio.com. That's my email address, guys. You can shoot me an email. Let's not do the hate mail, right? I prefer to get that at the P.O. box. And great stuff. Let's see what you got to say. Yeah, I give the sponsors, right, just to make sure everybody has time to make their comment. Yeah, Toby Keith, 62 years old. That's 12 years older than me. I know I'm facing my mortality every day, but that's too early. The guy was a great artist, and it is unfortunate that he has passed on. But he gets to see what's next. Like, what is it? Toby knows now. Alan's definitely a Swiftie. We know that. Not just a Swiftie, like teeny bopper in general, right? Like the princesses, all that stuff over the years. If you track Alan Reinhart, you know that he's into the teen steam. I missed first part of the show. Are you guys going this weekend? Not at this moment. I am not going this weekend, Chuck. I'm not. It's 3.5 hours across the state. I got a lot of stuff going on here as I get ready to race, hopefully, at Speed World Dragway in Orlando, the Division 2 stuff. Get behind the wheel of my friend Lee Neal's race car truck in Super Street to try to earn some grading points for Project Pontiac. And there's a lot going on, but I will definitely be monitoring the broadcast. And you never know. I might just shoot over there, but it isn't like an hour away. It's 4 hours away. So that's not terrible. And I might get an inkling to shoot over there. You never know. C5 Pete be wearing his WFO shirt at the pro race. Hope so. Hope everybody's rocking their WFO gear. I'm super excited for our friends over there. And I wish them a great event. It's been exciting to watch it all come together. Will the stiffer front ends on the top fuel dragster make it harder to go 340? No pun intended. There'll be a learning curve. I can tell you that. There's always a learning curve, but we'll have to talk to a crew chief to see what they say. Great show, Joe and Alan. AJ, what's up, AJ? Great show today. Chuck says, Patreon merch. Yeah. If you sign up for a year, I send you a t-shirt. I send everybody patches and stickers, and you get some cool stuff from our prize closet. If you are a Patreon, plus you get your benefits, you get to be a part of, all the good stuff. It's really a great community, but hey, honestly, like everybody's nice so far. Like all of our patrons, we got about 100 of them, and everybody is super respectful and comes in very nice and positive and happy about being a drag racing fan. There's not been a person that's come in with a bad attitude. It's amazing. And we really want to keep that going. Let's see. A coworker of mine did the dragster adventure at Frank Hawley's drag racing school with his dad, and he loved it. There's nothing not to love. Millican fan, going with KC all day. That's how I see it. KC is just, first of all, now that Flying H Motorsports Park has painted their starting line like Kansas City Chiefs colors, people were like, are these the new Mission Foods colors? And I'm studying it. It's like, are they the Mission Foods colors? Oh, well, they're in Kansas City, and they are 20 minutes away from Arrowhead Stadium. And so the starting line colors at Flying H is Chiefs colors. That makes sense. Took me a few minutes to figure that one out, right? I heard the term radial prep at sick week. Can you explain the difference? Ask Stephen Glenn. Much stickier, like considerably stickier, way more prep. Dead hook prep. That's the thing about drag radial tires. They got a dead hook. And that's why they were having those blowovers, because they were dead hooking mid-track and causing the wheelie lever to go up, and then they would catch air, etc. But radial prep is extreme prep. It's the exact opposite of no prep. No prep, which isn't even no prep. No prep is, they start out with no prep, but by the end of the day, their tracks are as stickier than what you feel on the starting line at NHRA. NHRA is a consistent prep strategy. And that's what I'm actually very interested about this pro event down there, the SCAG Pro Superstar Shootout. And everyone that's talking about 340, myself included, I like to think I was the first person to put 340 on the board, make everybody aware. It's February in Florida at sea level, and the race teams themselves are going to control the prep. We all know that the performance in drag racing is directly related to, one, the prep, and two, knowing what the prep is going to be. When NHRA preps, NHRA decides what the prep is going to be. And then the teams and the crew chiefs must adjust based on the information they are given. There's a gap, right? What it is and what they're told it is. And now they, as I understand it, will be controlling the prep. So what is the prep? How are they going to prep? And far be it from me to say they're going to go anything different from what they normally would get at the NHRA, but there's no way to know. And if I was holding a race, I can only view it in my own prism, like through my own eyes. Like, what would I do? I would make sure it was prepped very well. I would make sure we had great prep. That's what I would do. I would have great prep, right? Is it going to be exactly like an NHRA National Event Service? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it'll evolve after multiple days of testing. But that's why I think 340 is on the table. I think 340 for multiple racers is on the table because of February, sea level, multiple days of multiple runs on the same track, on the same surface, and the prep. So thank you for bringing up prep. Prep matters, but it depends on how you look at it. Red Solo Cup, he's running behind. No, it's a great song. Iconic. Red Solo Cup, iconic. Great show as always. Good afternoon. This guy's just checking in. Ant Dog checking in. What's up, Ant Dog? Is Topeka done for good, or is there still hope? Okay, so the answer is, based on what I know, there's still hope, but it is also not looking good. At any moment, someone with tremendous financial resources could potentially swoop in and save things, rescue things, because all it takes is money. From what I understand, that is also possible with Palm Beach International Raceway. That dead is not actually the case. But who's got the money to go in there, to pay past debts, to pay whatever the deal is? I don't even really know all the details of the story. Nor do I want to. I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care about that story, but I don't care about that story. Like, some guys moving money around and they didn't get it right. Like, I don't know. It's a turnoff, man. But if somebody wants to go in there and assume all that responsibility, I think Topeka can be saved, is what I think. Do you have the money? Give me the money. Let's do it. I spent a lot of time in Kansas anyway. Ant Dog, is there a free broadcast for the pro shootout? No, I do not believe that there is. There's not a free broadcast. I mean, obviously the teams will be doing their own social media, but they have a broadcast partner, Flow. And Courtney has been doing a great job pushing it out there and even trying to, figure out for people what the best day to watch to sign up for the broadcast so you can see it and get, your entire month of great content that's coming up. So they've been doing a great job. Joey Rocket, I'll be there and can rock it. Love you, brother, as always. May the Nitro Ninja Metal gods be with you. Thank you, Joey Rocket. Appreciate you, brother. Prep matters. It matters. Radials. That's why a lot of times we'll have these radio guys come out to the NHRA to showcase their cars, and they perform well, but not as well as they normally go because they're like flypaper, dead hooking, like stuck on the track, like don't have a track walk because it'll end ugly. All right, guys. Julie Natas tomorrow, 12 noon. Julie. The WFO archive. We're closing in on a milestone. Do you like the show? You like hearing from drag racers? You don't even have to like me. You don't have to like the show. You just got to like drag racing and drag racers because that's what we do. And look, here's the deal, guys. My two friends, Jason Logan and Jason Galvin, started their show at 2:00. They got Matt Smith on right now. Go find Life's a Drag and check out their show. I told them I'd send some listeners their way. They're doing the show right now. Since my show is ending, go check out Life's a Drag on YouTube and sign on and accost them and give them hell. Yeah, give them hell. All right, guys. We'll see you later. WFO tomorrow, 12 noon. Thanks, Alan.